Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be talking about a couple of changes to the way that you're farming, a couple things to consider, and a lot of this stems from the way that era battles have changed the dynamic of return on our investment, and with the introduction of Appo and the way that he's changing Lord Vader, there is some considerations to be made around certain units in this game that maybe we need to consider pulling resources back from where maybe it was smarter to get them earlier. Now we kind of want to wait a little bit because, spoiler, it's Bo-Katan. She was a character that we built a lot earlier because there was that ability to counter Lord Vader. With that going away with the release of Appo here, I think the conversation does shift on maybe getting our return from what Mandalore provides for your guild. We only want to build Bo when our guild is getting close to that. We'll kind of, we'll kind of break that down, show you guys what we're talking about. Amongst some other things, let's give a huge shout out to the channel members, as always, for your continued support. If you're ever interested, y'all know where that link is. It's down below, along with our Discord server. Go check it out. Thank you guys again for keeping the faith, for believing in me. This channel has just continued to grow, and I'm so thankful that I get the opportunity. I'm very blessed to be able to do this. So thank you all again. Let's get in here. Let's talk about some farming changes. Alright, so, as I was kind of talking, with Bo-Katan Mandalore now, unless your guild is close to unlocking the planet of Mandalore, I don't know that it's worth building her and this team for in the current state of the game. Much of the value that I found for this team was its ability to handle Lord Vader. Lord Vader was one of those galactic legends where this was a slam dunk. It was really good banners and extremely consistent. And you'd say, and the value that provided to a lot of accounts was stability, that now you had your Jedi Master Luke, your Kenobi, other resources to be able to tackle something else, or you weren't risking a Fennec battle against Lord Vader. This team just provided a lot of that value. One of the other reasons why I wanted to sort of change up the way we're doing this is that with Bo-Katan, you're going to be building, Keller and Beck, Paz Vizsla, IG-12 and Grogu, and then Beskar and Mando. But what you'll notice is in this squad, there's no Keller and Beck because you still need to build Bo-Katan herself, and then you need a fifth Mandalorian who, ideally, we're looking at either Bo-Katan, Kryze, or Armorer, both of them who also take a Zeta. So part of my saying, hey, maybe avoid building Bo-Katan Mandalore unless your guild is close, and instead build the new Imperial Remnant and Battle for Naboo characters, the Duel of the Fates characters. Both of these teams, in terms of the Zetas, just think through this here for a sec. This is 5 Zetas right here, and this is 5 Zetas right here. Or 4 Zetas here, 5 Zetas here, so 9 total Zetas. If you count up the Zetas on this Bo-Katan Mandalore team, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9. You're investing 9 Zetas in this team. And you will need, the Bo-Katan one on the end here, you might not need, but it makes that team so much better in PvP. But you need at least these Zetas in order to clear the event. And then obviously you're going to want them on Bo. But you're also not taking into consideration that for Keller and Beck himself, you also need 2 Zetas in order to really beat his tier. Because that's not an easy event to beat. You're probably going to want both of his Zetas. So there's a lot of Zeta investment in that Bo-Katan Mandalore team that I think kind of gets overlooked. And the reason I want to push for getting the Battle for Naboo characters, I call them Battle for Naboo, Duel of the Fates, because Battle for Naboo is going to be sunsetting. Duel of the Fates and the Imperial Remnants for their assault battles is because of these era battles. Appo has really changed the way we need to look at the return on your investments here. We're moving to a much more short-term payoff, where you're getting a reward for the short-term investment of, hey, you went and got Appo super early. We're going to give you some extra additional rewards because of that. Where assault battles, the legacy ones and Duel of the Fates and the Peridea Patrol, they offer you rewards for any point in time. As soon as you reach that point, boom, extra rewards. So I kind of look at this and say, while Bo-Katan's a great character, unless your guild's close, move to these. It's a much better long-term investment, and you're going to get 2 teams here. You're going to get the benefit of having an Imperial Remnant. getting a Queen Amidala team. Those are great teams for, player versus environment, PvE, territory battles, conquest. And they're great for PvP, territory wars, GAC. These teams really shine, and especially when you think these are Galactic Legend requirements down here, that makes it even easier. But I really, really want to continue to stress that those are really good investments, especially if you're in that earlier part of the game, you were thinking Bo, I would just look here. In terms of the Kyratex, it's roughly the same between them. The Zetas, again, I was showing you, it's the same. And the units that you can put, like, over here, a lot of you are probably in a position where you have some additional Galactic Republic Jedi that can go in those slots. I mean, Grandmaster Yoda, Cup, if you bought that bundle, Mace Windu, Barriss Offee. I mean, you could throw Luminara in there if you wanted. It does, Shaak Ti. There's an endless array of characters that fit there. And with your Imperial Remnants, you do get, it is a little bit more challenging, but you think TIE Fighter Pilot, who you built up for an Executor fleet. You've got Stormtrooper, Death Trooper, Scout Trooper. You do have a couple of options here. Dark Trooper doesn't really work as well. Again, he's the one outlier of the Imperial Remnant faction, but these guys can take, he just doesn't want the allies with Empire and leader tag. So we don't want Dark Trooper Moff Gideon or OG Moff Gideon. So you're looking at these other troopers there. But that's a very good team, and I think it will trip up a lot of players. So I would still say that's, with this Appo kind of making Lord Vader better, switching to these era battles, I think these assault battles are now more important than ever before. Next, with this new Bad Batch. So this is looking to be the more free-to-play friendly option to build for a lot of players. If you're trying to get into the raid, trying to get one of the new teams, this is the more free-to-play friendly option because they're farmable already. We already have Batcher on a fleet node, and we have Omega Fugitive on a regular energy node. So we then also got Hunter to Cantina. You want to save Hunter for last. This is one of those, I'd say, farming mistakes or tips that I've always tried to instill in my channel members and my subscribers. Save Hunter for last. I can get Hunter in a couple of days. He's on a 10 energy node, which is very player friendly. You're going to get it super quickly. Save him for the end. It's not going to take you long to 7-star this character. And the reason we want to wait is there might be an event that has extra shards for Hunter. Maybe there's bonus drops coming for these guys. If there's nothing, guess what? It doesn't really impact me because a 7-star Hunter doesn't help my account. I can't really use him. I don't have his Datacron, so I can't really use him outside of this team. I don't have a use for him. So there's no reason for me to rush getting that done. I'm going to wait until Crosshair Scarred and Wrecker Mercenary are on the farm and getting close to 7-star before I work on Hunter, because at this point, it's just not value added. So I wanted to make sure that we talk through that here, that don't go and farm Hunter right away just to check a box. Wait around. Maybe there's some bonus drops that happen that will save you some much needed Cantina energy, which can go towards your signal data or some other farm that you're starting to chase. Because remember, you got to think one of these dark side clones is most likely going to end up in the Cantina. Whenever we get 4 characters, it normally feels like we're going to get one of them in that Cantina. And, we have seen, I'd say, a sharp increase in the amount of Cantina characters with both Padawan Obi-Wan, Master Qui-Gon going there. Great Mothers and Morgan both went there. It does seem like we are getting some more Cantina characters to get there faster, but that also means we need to be a lot more efficient with our energy when going for signal data, so that's kind of the idea with saving Hunter for last. All right, next, we've got to get going on Tarkin, and this is kind of a unique take here, but you've got to think through this process. Tarkin is guaranteed to be in this raid. We know that going in. And the bigger thing we're looking at is the fleet. A lot of you, whether you've purchased Lightspeed bundles or you're free to play and you've kind of progressed through the game, you probably have the makings of a pretty solid Empire fleet with Tarkin, right? If we go to that, Executrix fleet, most of you probably have the pieces to this fleet. You have Relic Inquisitors, Emperor Palpatine and Royal Guard Relics, Vader's there, Imperial TIE Fighters there. And so now, your TIE Interceptor is at Relics once you get that. So you're kind of looking at like TIE Defender and the Gauntlet Starfighter, maybe Reaper, that you're like, all right, do I work on that? I 100% would. There are certain counters that the Executrix is far better than the Chimera for. There's certain uses that the Executrix has that are much better. And the other side of this is that we know Tarkin is in the raid. And why I want to bring this up is Tarkin with Darkside clones. Number one, let me go back to the fleet for a second here. Let me rewind. With the Empire fleet, where this one is extremely important in my personal opinion, is that it sort of fills this, when you look at like your triple middle finger defenses here, right? You've got the Leviathan, Executor, Profundity, and then Negotiator is like a clear step down. That's kind of where the Empire fleet sits. It's within that Negotiator realm of you're clearly not as good as XYZ, but you are clearly better than a bunch of the other fleets, and that's where I feel the Empire with either Thrawn or Tarkin sits. They're just very, very good, well-rounded fleets. So that's, one reason. But also with Tarkin, what you want to consider is he's going to be with these Darkside clones, right? He's going to be the leader for the Darkside clones in this raid. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of what the Jawas were in the Krayt Dragon raid. If we go back to the Krayt Dragon raid, Jawas was one of the teams. When you look at my Jawas here, I had one Relic Jawa with 3, what are these guys, Gear 9? So not much gear at all invested in this team. I was still getting the maximum score in the Krayt Dragon raid. I was still getting the 300,000 points in the base difficulty here. I was getting 300,000 points. That is a significant number, because in this, and in the Krayt Dragon raid, and even in the Battle for Naboo raid, if you can score 300,000 points as an entire guild, right? And again, I'm gonna pull up my handy dandy calculator here. There's the calculator. So you guys can already see I kind of did this, but if you do 300,000 and you multiply that by 50 players, you get 15 million. Well, what's significant about 15 million? That's the second reward crate. The second reward crate is 14.5 million. Now, obviously, I recognize that you might not get a perfect 300,000, but that just shows you the benefit of having that Tarkin team, even with some lower gear Darkside clones. You could make a significant dent in your guild's raid progress simply by having those clones, even if it's just at a lower gear level. Having them at some level to be able to be used with Tarkin could be massive for your guild. And so I wanted to make sure we talk about that, get the fleet going for the fleet usage, but thinking about Tarkin kind of being that solo unit to use with those guys and score you some good points. The last topic I want to cover is Saw Gerrera, Luthen, and this is kind of like where there's smoke, there's fire. We got Luthen released. Then we got the Luthen Datacron. Then we got a Rebel Datacron. Then we now just have another Rebel Fighter level 6 Datacron. That is 3 different distinct sets of Datacrons, 3 times where Rebel Fighters with Saw Luthen have had some measure of benefit. And they don't do that unintentionally. They're very intentional with that. We just got a Profundity Lightspeed bundle. Something is potentially coming. A lot of us have speculated for a while that we would maybe be getting a Luthen ship as a lifter for the Profundity. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I just feel there's some potential here. They've been very, very diligent at keeping this team sort of at the forefront. There's benefit to building it beyond just them being like, oh, here's Datacrons, here's some feats or whatever else. I'm looking at this team and I'm really thinking that there's a lot of potential for us to do well here. And as that kind of continues, as we can work closer and closer, I'd be keeping an eye, because next thing you know, we could be getting a Luthen ship and you're going to have to gear him up. That could be nothing, right? This could be nothing. I've never, you think back to the original Lightspeed bundles we got where they released the Night Sister bundle, and then we got Great Mothers and Morgan. They released all those Galactic Republic bundles, and we got the new raid. There's been a pattern that a lot of these bundles have led directly into the content that was being released. So I have a feeling with that Rogue One bundle, with some of those Rebel fighters, that something could be coming that is going to make this team valuable again. So that's the end of the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. Like, subscribe, comment. I love you all, May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, my friends.